Welcome, my name is Lexi and today I want to show you how to create this very classic and beautiful and delicate Victorian makeup look. So if you are curious to how I achieve this look, keep on watching. So I apologize for the lighting, it is very gloomy today, but I have some lights on to try and help. I didn't want to bust out the ring light for this. So this look really focuses on the skin. You want it to be very dewy and natural looking, so skincare is incredibly important for that. So I'm starting with just a few toners. First, I'm using a rose water toner. I love how this smells. It feels so incredibly relaxing and just calming on the skin. And then next, I'm just using a rice essence. It doesn't have to be these exact products. You can achieve any makeup look with any products. It really is just about the technique. And this one I just like to pat into my face. So I'm going to give everything a second just to settle in, really get into my skin before we start. And there's kind of a few things that I'm going to switch up that I don't usually do in my routine. So the first thing is actually starting with a setting spray. I feel like this really helps, especially if you're using lots of cream products, dewy products. This really helps lock in, especially if you're not using a primer. And then the second thing that I'm going to be doing is creating my own skin tint. So I really love this for days that I really just want a sheer coverage, and I only have one skin tint and I really enjoy that one. So this is kind of what I do for other days when I just want something different. And I really like that this is so versatile. You can do it with any products. So all you need is your favorite face moisturizer, and you can either do this with a concealer or a foundation. And you're gonna mix them together. And it just creates the most beautiful sheer look, really nice coverage, and I just love that it blends so well. So that's what we're gonna do today. So I'm just starting with the Charlotte Tilbury setting spray. Again, it can be any setting spray. I just wouldn't opt for a very dewy setting spray. You want something that's going to create some kind of like layer for the makeup to stick to. So I'm going to show you my little trick, and today I'm using concealer. So I'm gonna just do like my regular amount of moisturizer that I would put on in the morning. And I'm actually using a concealer I dislike. I hate this thing so much, but I'm gonna show you it actually can get it to work. And I highly recommend that if you have some that you don't like, especially if it's like too dark or really anything, you can make it work. So that's about how much I'm gonna start with. I dipped it in once and then I just swabbed both on the back of my hand. And just mix it. Just mix it with your finger. You know, if it's too dark, you're going to use less of that product, but mixing it with some moisturizer really does the trick. And look at that. We have our own skin tint. So you're just going to apply it like how you would moisturizer. And it just blends into the skin so well. I mean, look at that. I did nothing for that. And if you have dry skin like me, this can be a lifesaver, especially in the winter when it is dry. So this whole look really is about just perfecting your base and really just looking like you just woke up like this. I know I didn't just wake up like this. You know I didn't just wake up like this, but we are kind of creating this illusion and changing the perception of the viewer of how we look. And that was really like the main thing of it. I know a lot of women were like criticized for wearing makeup in the Victorian Renaissance period, but they still did it, and I think that's so funny that they did that. I highly recommend checking out my Renaissance makeup tutorial. That one is very similar to this one, though I did make a few changes just because I was going to Ren Fair. And then also, if you are going to be wearing any type of base product, always take it down to your chest or whatever area is being seen. And this one just really just blend it in. Make sure it is blended as possible because it does have that lotion in it. The other day I did this and it was really beautiful for my face, and then there was one part on my neck. I guess I didn't blend it all the way and you could literally see like chunks. But I just rubbed it in and it blended. So I don't know if that was the moisturizer, the concealer, what that was, but just make sure it is completely blended. So while this would probably be enough, I'm going to use just a little bit of color corrector just to really create the perfect base look. And today I'm just using my NYX palette. I really like this for color correcting, though I only use a few shades. So really this peach shade is where I hang out with, that you can see I kind of dip the green in there sometimes. This green, I don't know, I feel like it's a different formula than this one. This one's very creamy, blends really well, just like from the heat of your fingers, whereas this one is like gritty and it doesn't mix well with their makeup. So I'm still kind of playing around with these other shades. I tried just like all of them just to see how they look and just trying to understand the color theory with color correcting. So I do really recommend this palette if you think you are going to use most of these shades. But today I'm just going to dip into that peach shade. And this one is really great for my under eyes. It just gives like such a nice blend and it looks so natural. And like it's incredibly subtle, but I feel like it really just brings the look together for me. I like to bring it down just a little bit. I'm not going to be using that green, though you could for red areas. I just have such a hard time getting the green color correctors to work for me. So I just use this peach one. It works fine. I'm just going to brush my brows really quickly. I feel like they didn't really do anything for their brows. If anything, they were very like skinny, but I think just brushing them through is fine, but do what you need to do. That's probably my favorite part, and that is the blush. I love the blush. I love playing around with blush placement, colors, and it's so fun. So the one that I'm using today is actually a lip product, but you're just looking for like a true red product. So I'm using the NYX Super Whip, and this is a matte lip cream, but it's too matte on my lips, so I'm going to just use it as a blush. And for today, you're going to focus it more like just kind of like a lower part. I usually go for like a very sculpted and lifted look, but today we're going to kind of focus kind of in the apples of the cheeks, but going just slightly lower than that. You still want the placement to be very defined and just more of like a natural placement where you would blush. So because this one is matte and quite pigmented, I just put a little bit on the back of my hand and we'll start slowly. So it does help a little bit to smile just to see where your apple of your cheek is going to be, and then you can slowly blend with your fingers, but I'm actually going to use a sponge. This is very subtle. I like to do both sides first and then build it up if needed. If I just do one side, I tend to really build it up and then I struggle getting the other side even, so it's just a little tip. And you do need to work somewhat fast because this is already dried down on my hand. If you want, this is a great place to stop with the blush. I love blush, so I'm just going to do just a little bit more. And this time I'm just focusing it more on the center of like that circle that I created. I'm just taking what is left over just to kind of put on my lips because that's a beautiful color, and I do love the monochromatic look of pairing a blush with a lip product, but on its own it is so dry. At this point I am going to just powder a little bit. If you find that you did too much blush, perfect time is to take a translucent powder and you can just go over it and it will sheer it up just ever so slightly and it just looks so good. So I do want to keep this overall very dewy looking, so I'm just going to set my under eyes because I know that color corrector really creases, and then just slightly around like the blush placement just to kind of help blend it. But I am just using a brightening powder. You can use whatever you want. I do recommend either like a brightening for under eyes or just translucent powder. And just see how that just subtle blur really just helps. I'm not going to bake the under eyes because I feel like for me, it's really obvious that I use a lot of powder and we're not really looking for that. We want it to be as subtle as possible. And then just a little bit on my forehead because I do get kind of oily there. So I'm sure it will get oily throughout the day. But even then, I'm not like really getting powder. I'm just kind of swirling what's left in the container or your lid. So for the eyes, it was really difficult to try and kind of come up with what I was going to do for this because I just looked up through pictures and photos and it either went from like a very smoky eye or it just looks like nothing but like some definition in the crease. And what I'm thinking, maybe there was like a gothic Victorian look because that looked very smoky. The blush was even more concentrated, so I'm gonna lean more into the natural side of it because I feel like that really embodies the Victorian era where women were like dolled up in a way, but it was almost undetectable and it really just looked natural. It was just natural beauty, so I think that's what I'm gonna play more into. And you guys, I finally realized how to get my Danessa Myricks blurring balm to work, And I don't have oily skin, so I don't know why I thought that this would work for me, but I do have oily eyelids. So I've been using that, kind of testing it out, and it seems to be working as kind of like an eyeshadow primer, but I have been enjoying it. So we're pretty much just going to use mattes for this, and what I'm starting with is just some neutral browns. So you know what I'm using, my NYX palette, and I'm starting with kind of like this light brown, and then I'm going to go in with this deeper one, really just focusing at the crease with that one, but the other one will go kind of all over the lid, and we're really just creating definition. With that same brush, I'm going to go into that deeper shade and just focus on the crease. And I really like about this look, it doesn't have to be super exact with the eyeshadow, you can kind of just blend it out, and I think it looks really good. There are some subtle things that I want to do with the eyes still, so I am just going to take a black eyeliner and kind of tightline, but I'm going to do it more in like little mini lines along my lash line rather than the entire lash line. And then I'm also thinking of taking some underneath. I did see that and it looked pretty common, so I'm going to try that, though I do want to like smudge it out or something. I don't know yet. So I just added a little bit of eyeliner. It's very subtle, but I just smudged it out. And then I know I talked about just using mattes, but this is so sheer, I think it'll be fine. And this is a Stila eyeshadow, and I really just want it to kind of like add a little bit more brightness in the eyes, but it is so sheer, I think it'll be fine. The shade I have is Starlight. I have it. And then I think just tap it out with my finger. And I feel like you can't see it. I'm so sorry about the lighting. Like I said, I think it just adds a little bit of brightness, though it is very difficult to see. Oh my, what is that? Oh, that's so disgusting. Okay. As I was saying, it just adds a little bit of brightness to the eyes, and I just really like that. It's very subtle, but just slightly catches the light. And then finally for lips, I feel like the red kind of wore off, so I'm going to go in with a matte lipstick, and the one I'm using is Glossier one, their Generation G's. These really create a nice like blotted look. I'm not a huge fan of the packaging. It cracks and breaks. I've had so many break on me, but I really do like for what this can achieve. And it's just like a nice buildable blotted look. The shade I'm using is Jam, and these are so dry. Like that's why I feel like it works so well for a blotted look. I like this one because look how dark it is. It's so purple, but I've never gotten it to look like that on my lips. I really like it for just a blotted look. It's just so sheer. And honestly, I feel like if I like didn't do the color corrector, really went in for that smoky gothic look with eyes, I mean, I would look like a sick Victorian child. I mean, just... So we're done with the makeup, but lastly, I have been loving pairing fragrances with my makeup look. I think it just really adds something to it, and I feel very embodied by the makeup look. So what I chose today was kind of difficult to choose. I didn't know if I wanted more of like a musky scent or more floral, but I ended up going up with more floral, and I chose the Victorian-inspired Ruby Orchid. And this one, it just... Oh, it smells so good, you guys. I really love this one. It's like a fruity floral. It's really nice. And I just, oh, it feels very feminine to me. And I think that it is a great description for today's look. Like, it's not hyper feminine, but it is very feminine, very delicate. And while I wouldn't describe this fragrance as delicate, I do really feel like it just enhances this look. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you decide to try out this look or what your take on Victorian makeup would be. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time.